All right, so here we go with this learning target right here. So let's go back to tables. And the good thing is you already know how to do half of this. So what we're going to talk about is our table of values. Let's go with something that we can relate to. Let's just say that this is the number of hours that I work, and this is the amount of money that I make when I babysit. Okay, so let's say you babysit. And usually when you babysit, if you don't work any hours, you don't earn any money, right? That's how it goes for most jobs. Okay, you got to be there and put in the time to get the money, okay? But 1 hour into your job, you've earned $10, and 2 hours is $20, and 3 is $30. So we're keeping these numbers really simple just to kind of get you the concept, right? So if I were to ask you to find the rate of change for this table, piece of cake, right? First of all, you can see the 0.00. It's going up by ones, which is always a nice little bonus. And when it goes up by ones, your rate of change is whatever this is going up by, right? So for every hour you work, you earn $10. So you told me that the rate of change was 10, right? Probably for this one? All right? Now, what we're doing today is we're taking it one step further, and I'm asking you to write a rule. I want you to underline the word rule, and you're kind of like, what do you mean rule? So rule is just another way of saying equation, except the equation is y equals 3x plus 1 or whatever the equation is. I just made that up. It has nothing to do with that. However, the rule for the function would be not y, but this is unit 3, and in unit 3 we don't use y. It's a function unit. We use f of x. So do you see the difference between an equation and a rule? The equation includes the y, and the rule includes the f of x. So we're just doing this as an equation right now. So if I were to write the equation for this, it would be y equals 10x, right? And here's why y equals 10x makes sense. Because don't all of these y values equal whatever the x values are, but times 10? 1 times 10. 2 times 10. So doesn't this equal x times 10, which is 10x, which equals y? So it's kind of like comes full circle there. I need you to understand why I put that rate of change right there. Do you understand why that goes there? Because it's 10 times the x's. Okay? So if I were to do this, let's talk about this for a second. So today then we're going to see f of x, and then you're going to have 2 spots to fill in today. All right? So we just decided that because this fit there perfectly like that the number that goes in front of the x is going to be your rate of change. All those rate of change that you found on your tan sheet, we know what to do with them now. It's the coefficient for x. So the rate of change is really the coefficient. And if you remember from Unit 1, the coefficient is the number in front of the variable, right? It's the coefficient for your x. Okay? Which then means, why do I have a line after the x? Okay? We'll leave that blank for a second, and I'll kind of let you guess what that blank is for. So let's say it's New Year's Eve, and this couple really wants to go out badly. They just bought tickets to this fancy thing with all-you-can-eat shrimp, and they don't have a babysitter because their babysitter is the senior, and they don't want to babysit on their senior year of New Year's. So they say to them, I will pay you $100 just to start, and then every hour I'll still pay you your hourly rate. So that means this is the number of hours that they work, and this is the amount of money that she makes. If she doesn't work any hours, she still earned what? That's what they hand her when she walks in the door. It's kind of like her little signing bonus. They're like, thank you so much. We just want to go out on New Year's Eve. Believe me, it's the hardest night of the year to find a babysitter for because nobody wants to do that. So, but you make good money, right? So then they say, okay, but after working 2 hours, she will have earned $140. After working 4 hours, she will have earned $180. After working 6, she will have earned $220. So now, this table, immediately we noticed it's different from the other table because this contained 0, 0, which means it was proportional, straight line through the origin. This does not contain 0, 0, right? So what are we going to refer to that as? You've heard me call it something before. Isaiah, go ahead. Yeah, it's the Y-intercept, right? But in terms of like this example, it's kind of like the starting value, right? Okay? So we have two things to figure out. And actually what I should have put here to stay consistent is f of x. So today you're going to write your equation, and this is going to be on the paper already. So like here's what your paper is going to look like today. A table, and then it's going to say, what does f of x equal? Y really equals, and then you have to figure out two things. Well, I know that my rate of change goes in front. So what is my rate of change? Well, we got to be careful because it's not going up by ones. It's going up by twos. So for every 2 that this goes up what? 40. She earning $40 an hour? No. She's earning $40 for every 2 hours, so she's really earning $20 an hour, right? And now, what goes here? She started with something, didn't she? Plus 100. Very good. So that initial value, that's what we're going to go and write up here and go ahead and fill that in. So if this is your rate of change, this is your, you'll hear it called initial value. You'll hear it called your sign-up fee, your membership fee, your joining fee, your rental fee, whatever. It's whatever your upfront cost is. And all of those could be under the category initial value. Okay? So do you understand this so far? So really, that's all we're doing today. So what I'd like you to do is just to take the homework sheet out that you had, and we're going to, we already have half of it done. We have the rate of change already. I just want to finish it off and do the whole thing. Do the full thing here. So you have that this rate of change was 7, right? So what do you know so far? You know that f of x is equal to 7x. And if you're lucky, then the 0 is showing. It's when x is 0, whatever is with that is your y-intercept, right? So 100 was my starting fee. And let's kind of point this out too. If it's 0, 0, why isn't there anything after? Because there isn't a startup fee. She didn't get any money that. That was just a regular old Wednesday night or whatever, okay? So looking at this, do I know my initial value? Is there an initial value? Yeah, it's what? 13. So when you're given ones like that, it's like a little bonus, right? When you can see that x at 0, then consider yourself lucky because it's not always going to be there. We're going to have to hunt for it. So this time your rate of change was 19. So what is your full equation? I'm going to write y a million times. F of x equals? Good. Okay. So on this one, a little trickier because you can't see it, and I'm going to give you 2 strategies to how to find this. Okay? There are 2 kinds of thinkers in this world, right? Or 2 kinds of students, I guess I should say. The students, and I think I kind of, well, you guys are a good blend of both, I think. There's the person who just is very mathematical and wants to solve an equation and plug it in and do this math and solve that equation and be a little robot and a little calculator and get an answer. Then there's the person who wants to look at it and think about it and go, well, if this is this, then this has to, do you see the difference between the 2? Okay, so in your head, just kind of think about which one you are. Hopefully you're a good blend of both because that's what you kind of need to succeed in here. But so the logical thinker, and they just want to walk themselves through it, and kind of a problem solver would do what? What do you think? I already know that the rate of change is 2.25, right? So I have f of x is equal to 2.25x so far. And now I'm just going to figure out what goes there. So I think you all have a little bit of this logical person in you. This is going up by 1s, right? Well, I guess I'm going to just do this first to kind of show you. What if that wasn't there? What if that 0, 4 was not included? What if it just said x, y? then how would you find that 4? What would you do? Logically, you would say, for every 1 this goes up, I add another 19 here, right? Well, what if I need to go backwards? Go ahead, JC.
You would subtract 1.
Yes.
And 19. Or subtract
Yes. So you would, to get that 0, instead of going forward 1, you would go backwards 1, which means instead of going forward 19, you would go backwards 19 from 23, right? And 23 minus 19 is 4, right? So does that make sense? So can we apply that logic to this one? It's a little trickier because I don't have to just go back 1. If I go back 1, I'm only at 3 days. So you have 2 choices. You could say go back 1 and 3 would be 225 less than this. And then go back another 225 less than this. Does anybody have a more efficient way to do that? Yeah, JC.
Like whatever 2.55 times 4 is.
Yeah. Yeah. He says, well, to get back to 0, I'm going to need to go back 4 places, right? So I'm going to need to go back $2.25 4 times, right? And if that confuses you, then just do this. Think of it like this, right? Okay? Because 4 times 2 is 8, and 4 times a quarter is $1. So going back 4 would be the equivalent of going back here 9. And I need you to stop for a second because this worksheet was not created for finding the initial value. So some of them may not make sense, but let's just find it and then we'll make it fit to the story. So going back $9 from 6 lands me where? -3, right? So when this is -3, don't put a plus, put a minus. Use one sign. No more both signs. You can't do a plus and negative. If it's a negative, put a negative. Put a minus. So let's talk about this real world example. When would this example make sense? When would if my y or my f of x represents my total cost, if my total cost is -3, that's great. That doesn't mean I'm in the whole $3. That means what? When you walk into this video store, they what? They hand you $3. They say, here, first movie's on us. So that brings my out-of-pocket cost down $3, right? Do you see what I mean? So, do you understand how we got -3 from there? And went back 4, okay? Let's do this one, that same way. So, think about if we use that logic, how could you get back to 0 if I'm at 4? You already told me that this is going up for every 2. It's going up 100, which means 100 divided by 2 gave you. So we already know this much. F of x equals 50x. Anybody know what the joining fee or the cost to visit this ranch, what would be to just like a cleaning fee or something? Just to enter or buy this room, Audrey. 50. It's also 50, right? Because did you go back? This one's not so bad. 2 would go down 100, which would be 150. Go down another 2 to get to 0, and that would be 50. So plus 50. I really hate when they're the same because people are like, which? So that was the think about it logic method. I'm going to show those people who like hard, fast numbers, just solving equations. This might be more up your alley, okay? So let's take a look at this. You already know that your rate of change is what here? It's going down 3. So I already know half of my answer is f of x is equal to -3x. And now watch this. So this is where I want to kind of on your separate sheet of paper, you may need to do this. So I already know that I have f of x equals -3x. Actually, you know what? For right now, remember how I said don't use y? For this is kind of a side note. It's okay to do it for this one. So just watch. If I have y equals -3x, the only thing I don't know right now is I heard Isaiah say it earlier. He said Y-intercept. Do you remember from last year that Y-intercept is b? Do you? Y equals mx plus b. Do you remember Mr. Meek saying that? This is me kind of going out on a limb and counting on you remembering something from a long time ago without teaching it to you. Trust me, that number right there, your initial value is B. Okay? So, I know this, but I don't know this. And when we don't know something in algebra, we use a variable to stand for it, right? So now, I'm going to solve for B, but right now I have 3 unknowns. If I can give the values of, if I know the values of 2 of them, couldn't I plug them in and solve for B? Anybody know where I can get my hand on an X and a Y? You've got a whole table of them. Pick whichever one you want. Isn't this 1 comma negative 4? Isn't this 0.2 comma negative 7? Pick whichever one you want. I always just go with the smallest one. So I'm going to say when X is 1, Y is negative 4. And then I'm going to plug those in. Watch this. So if this is 1, that's my X. I'm going to put it here, right? If Y is negative 4, I'm going to put that there. Do you see? Okay? Autumn, please pay attention. So when I do this, I don't write Y. I write negative 4 equals negative 3 times what? Whatever your X is, which is 1. So now watch this. Negative 4 is equal to negative 3 plus B. Solve for B. Add 3 to both sides. Negative 1 is equal to B. So now what do I have to do with that? Go back and put it in the equation. Boom. Now, let's check it the common sense way and see if that's what we get. All right? So if I go backwards 1, I should do what? Be careful here. Sometimes you may need to see this. Down 3. Down 3. So if I went backwards 1, what should I do to get to 0? Add 3, right? Because it's kind of like, what would I have started at that when I subtracted 3 from it got me to negative 4? So this is negative 1, which is what we got. So now, my advice to you is, sometimes it's really easier to just go ahead and count backwards, right? But sometimes, and you're going to see on your sheet, there's a pretty messed up one, and there's like hard to figure out the pattern, and you're like 10 away from 0, and it's like, ugh, this is going to be probably your best bet. So let's try another one like this. Ready? So what do I know so far? I know that Y is equal to negative, is this 3x again? Yeah. Plus B, plus the I don't know. I mean, can you just go ahead and try to find it real quick, just for looking at it. 2 different ways. Not this way, just look at it. Think you can figure that out? I do want to show you this. Plus 3. From 2 to negative 7, be careful. It's not 5, it's actually 9. You went down 9. Okay, so stop for a minute. You're going to need to understand this today. It's the change in the Y divided by the change in the X, right? So you're dividing negative 6 by 2 and not negative 9 by 3, not the other way around. So it's negative 6 divided by 2, negative 9 divided by 3. Either way, you get what? Right? Okay, so if I'm going back 1, I have to go what from 8? Forward 3, which what would I be at? From 8, yes. Okay, so did everybody see how we got 11? And guess what? If you're looking at me like, nope, I don't know, then maybe this is your best bet, right? Maybe your brain isn't working that way. Maybe your brain is a little more formula-based and mathematical. So let's do it. So let's put the plus B. You have to remember to do that. Pick a point, whichever point you want. How about 1, 8? It's easy. They're both positive. So 1, 8, which means Y is what? When Y is 8, listen to how I say this. When Y is 8, and X is 1, what's B? Right? You just solve it. So 8 is equal to negative 3 plus B. Add 3, and what do I get? 11 is equal to B. Boom. So you decide which way you like it better. And for some of them, It's literally, you go backwards 1, go backwards 2, big deal. It's for the ones that are a little trickier for that, okay? So, when you get this paper, you can leave it. You're going to find not only the rate of change, but the initial value. Boom, 0, 0, 0, negative 3. Oh, and then I stop giving them to you. Yes?
Okay, so if we use the formula with the y equals
Yep.
on the worksheet, would we put f of x instead?
Yeah, well, you could, although this right here, like all this right here, that's a great question. This is just kind of a little side note to help you get to your final answer of this, but on your paper, well, the answer's already written for you. So the f of x is already there, so you don't really, I used it y because I want you to know that that's in the y. So you can use y equals, because it's almost like just scratch work. But on your final answer, it'll be f of x equals, and then whatever. Okay?